It can be said that everything that happens on Earth is dependent upon rock. The air we breathe, the food we eat, and the water we drink would not exist without rock. Rock is everything, and everything is rock to Steve Maynard. His entire life revolves around rocks. In fact, he eats, drinks, breathes, and he dreams about rocks. He even likes rock music. You get the picture. Now he's out to track the things we use every day back to their rock origins and rediscover the processes invented by man to convert rock into everything we use and need to survive.
Today, we're going to another dimension of the 21st century Stone Age, the story of Dimension Stone. We'll visit a quarry from which rock is extracted and discuss its geological origins. We'll look at cut and polished stone and its uses in construction, the modern processes of fabrication, and the roots in ancient techniques. Here in New Mexico, this slightly hollowed out oblong rock is known as a metate. Early Native Americans fashioned stone tools such as the metate and the mano that went with it to grind grain. You could think of the metate as an early form of dimension stone. Dimension stone can be defined as any naturally occurring rock that is cut and shaped into specific sizes, just like the dimension stone we find in a modern kitchen. The technology of cutting and polishing rock has evolved. This kitchen was mapped digitally and the rock cut to fit perfectly. Let's head out on a new geologic adventure. I've got some questions that need answers. What do you think philosophically about the use of stone in our daily lives?
I think that, at the most basic level, people use what's around them to build their homes.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, Paige. Nice
Good
to
to see you. Here's my husband, Mike.
Hi, Mike. Nice to see you.
So Steve, this is the kitchen, which is really the heartbeat of our home. And as you can see, we've had granite slabs installed in multiple different areas that really accentuate the colors and the feel of our home. And it's just a beautiful surface, as you can see.
The rock just kind of brought more of the nature and where we live. Mm-hmm. And Mike's always been a big proponent of embracing our New Mexico culture and the beautiful outdoors.
Reflects the area that we live in. We're surrounded by the mountains. In the rock you can see all the colors, not only of the mountains, but the land, the sunset. It's a great surface because it's really durable. It doesn't stain, it takes heat, it's easy to clean.
It just, to me, it matches, it brings the outside beauty inside, and it just is a nice segue.
You ought to be able to look around where you live and see the materials that are used to build your home. And so that's one of the reasons that we love granite. We have an enormous granite mountain right over there that just looms over everything. And to have it here on our counters just seems appropriate.
Mm-hmm. Do you know how old this rock is?
I have no idea, do you?
Well, I do in a general way. This rock is from Brazil. And a granitic rock that's quarried in Brazil, I'm guessing, is more than likely at least 1 billion years old.
Wow. That makes it even better.
It could be as much as 3 billion or more.
Really?
Yeah.
That's just fascinating to me.
Thanks so much for showing me your house. You've got beautiful rocks.
Thanks so much for coming by, Steve.
Thanks, Steve. We really enjoyed it.
Bye now.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Hi, Scott.
Yes, sir.
Steve Maynard.
Hey, Steve, Scott Lardner. I'm the owner of this operation here.
Ah, okay. It's great to meet somebody else who's interested in rocks.
Yeah, well, appreciate you being here.
So what are you going to show me here today?
We're going to give you a tour of our operation, kind of start here at the finished goods.
What are we looking at here?
This is a natural granite countertop. Granite has become incredibly popular because of obviously the beauty of it, but the durability as well, and it's become a lot more affordable with new technologies for processing it.
Right, because I don't remember so many granite countertops growing up 30 years ago.
Yeah, it used to be before diamond technology really came around. There wasn't an easy process to make slab material, and now that they've perfected that process, it's just much more readily available. Dimensional stone can be used for, for interior tiling or flooring, or exterior paving, for pool decks, for walkways, that sort of thing. It can be used for fireplaces, be used for walls, both interior and exterior, cladding on high rises. I mean, there's monuments are all kind of fall into the dimensional stone realm, as well as countertops, kitchen countertops or vanity tops, shower enclosures, fireplace hearths, barbecues. Just about any surface you can use natural stone for.
So this is the finished, installed, polished product. What happens before this?
Well, we cut it and do the finishing, and I can take you to the plant and show you how that happens.
Well, let's go see it.
Let's go.
Okay,
Come
I'll
on.
follow you.
Everything that we do is custom fabricated.
Custom
So,
fabrication.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Because if you think about, like, your kitchen doesn't look like anybody else's kitchen, and the color stone that you pick isn't the same thing that somebody else is going to pick.
So a few steps after selling the job, we're here to measure the countertop for exactness. This is the digital templating stage, where we take a digital scan of the kitchen.
So we are at the programming step, which is right after templating and just before we put the slab on the saw. It's where we put the pieces on the actual slab, work on the layout, and prepare the water jet and saw tool pathing.
What I do is I photograph each slab and give it an inventory number, and we could track this slab from the beginning to the end of the job.
We're called sawyers. We cut the slabs. I'll get the program and then I'll match the slab number with the program, make sure that's all right. And then once I get the slab, I'll put it on the table and we'll go ahead and scan it, and we'll start the process from there by cutting it. We're using a water jet and a circular saw blade. A circular saw blade would be good for straight cuts, and then the water jet would be for round cuts and ring sinks.
You can't cut the stone just with water. So what they do, this is actually garnet. This is a garnet abrasive. This is the same stuff if you go to Home Depot and buy sandpaper. It has garnet on it. And the garnet's a pretty hard mineral. If you remember back to your physics class, there's a thing called the Venturi effect. And the Venturi effect, if you have a pressure moving, it creates a vacuum behind it. That's the Venturi effect. So you have water that's moving at Mach 3, and it's drawing things into it. And so just by gravity, it's just a gravity-fed system, you introduce this garnet into that flow, and it drags the garnet with it. And so the garnet is actually what's cutting the material, and the water becomes a carrier for the garnet.
After we cut it, we will send them to the fabricators for the fabrication process to begin.
It's close to about 23 pounds per square foot, so it's by, okay, ¿Qué tanta pesa? Como 400? Más? Probably about 500-600 pounds. Yes. You always want to carry it upright because you can't tabletop it, it'll snap in half from its own weight.
Pretty big piece of stone and a lot of effort to get it quarried and fabricated and brought into the house, but it'll be worth it in the end. My wife and I looked at hundreds of pieces of granite over several months before we picked these. They're all so different. They all have a unique personality and look, and you have to picture how it would look in your house. So we looked at all these pieces and imagined how they would be, and picked these. And now that we see them installed, I'm thrilled with the way it looks. It is ironic. I think we've lost touch with nature in the modern society. Technology has replaced the natural environment as the host of life. So having this big piece of nature in your house, there's something warm and comforting about it.
Okay, so that's how stone slabs are turned into countertops. Now let's head to the plant and see how blocks of rock are cut into slabs. I understand that you have a really big saw you're going to show me.
It's pretty big. So this is our gang saw, and this is how we saw slabs. One of only a few gang saws in the United States that are actually running. This used to be the primary way that people cut slabs, basically getting the block of stone down from a big block into something more manageable like a slab. These are blocks that come to our factory directly out of the quarry. If you look around, there's lots of different sizes and colors. We bring in stone from all over the United States and process it here at our factory in Berlin. This guy's about 5 foot tall, almost 9 foot long, and about 3 foot wide. This guy weighs, the truck that brought it to us only brought 2 blocks. This guy weighs about 20,000 pounds.
These slabs are how thick?
Right now, the machine's just set up for 3/4 and 2 inch.
I see. Why is it called a gang saw?
It's called a gang saw because there's a gang of blades inside the machine. There's a big electric motor that runs a flywheel, and the flywheel's connected to an arm that oscillates back and forth with an offset bearing on it. And that offset just makes the gang of blades run back and forth through the stone.
So you're cutting several slices at one time.
Right now the machine is set up with about 50 blades in it. This machine is not completely full with this block, but for the most part, if we were to fill the machine up, we'd cut somewhere between 50 and 60 slabs in an 8-hour shift.
What's the maximum size of these slabs?
The maximum size of slabs are 10 foot 6 long and 5 foot high. That's the capacity of this machine. This block is a little long to go under our gang saw or the belt saw, and it doesn't have a flat bottom. So what we'll do with this saw, this is called a wire saw, and what we do is we just trim the blocks up so they can go into the mill for processing.
Yeah, it's just a big loop.
Right.
Right.
So it's a diamond studded wire that runs through the stone, and the diamonds are what does all the cutting. That's the abrasive.
Right, and there's your water to lubricate it or pull the cut into current and cuttings away.
Right.
Right.
So when I was a kid, the first saw that we bought in 1978, the technology for putting a diamond on a little steel pearl was not available yet, right? It hadn't been invented. So we used to mix steel grit in a slurry with water, and the steel grit, and we just cut with a steel cable. So it's, this is the way it was done for years and years, until the technology improved to give us a diamond wire. What this machine is doing here is flattening that out and then putting the finish we require on the stone.
Right.
And the finish is done with abrasives, and it's just like finishing anything else. Start off with something really coarse and you work your way to a finer
grit. Right.
In all of our cutting processes, we use water to do a series of things. The first thing the water does is it keeps the diamond blades cool. So either it be a gang saw or a circular blade, or even a small polishing disc, we're always running water on it. That water is a very important part of the process of cutting stone.
Yeah, you can't do it without that.
Can't do without it.
Right.
And it needs to be fairly clean. Now, you don't need to be able to eat it or boil potatoes in it or anything like that, but it's got to be fairly clean. You can't have mud running through the system. Right. So in this part of our factory, we recycle all of our water. From the sawdust to dimensional cut products, you know, we process over 150,000 square feet of material here a year. So when you think about 25 to 30% waste, you end up with rather large scrap piles.
25 to 30% waste. So, well, what happens with the waste? The waste material.
So, a couple of different things. We have a scrap pile, which is right behind you. So people come up for a few dollars a day. They pick off their scrap pile. They use it for erosion control, flagstone, just landscaping around the house. The yards of Berlin are beautified with our scrap pile. This stone is a travertine that comes from New Mexico. We use it basically for artists. There's not a large quantity of this stone that comes out in this deep of color, and we sell this to a fair amount of artists up in the Santa Fe and Taos area.
Let's travel back in time and take a closer look at some of the earliest uses of dimension stone in the Southwest. I'm here at the Salmon Ruins in northwestern New Mexico in the Four Corners region. Ancestral Pueblo people once flourished here. Hi, I'm Steve Maynard.
Larry Baker. I'm the executive director here at the Salmon Ruins Museum. The site here, this archaeological site, is a 11th century ancestral Puebloan structure affiliated with the Chaco culture.
Does this qualify as dimension stone?
I believe it does. The majority of the site is built of sandstone, with some limited exception. We do see that there are also quartzitic cobbles included in interiors of walls as well as foundation areas, but the majority of the site is constructed of sandstone, which can be considered dimension stone because it's cut, shaped, faced, and split through a process we call grooving and snap fracture. So essentially what they're doing is taking a quartzitic cobble, taking flakes off, making an edge, nice fist-sized cobble, and then pecking and abrading a groove, scoring, if you will, around an unhewn piece of stone, and then breaking that over an anvil in the ground makes a nice even face, but many times it will give you this rounded corner appearance.
What other features can we identify that were made of rock at this site?
There are a variety of features that are incorporated into the construction of rooms. There are slab-lined hearths. There are enclosed ventilator shafts that are built of stone and bring cool air to the fire as a result of wanting to stimulate a convection and having smoke go out the ceiling. There are floor vaults that are built of stone and then are planked with wood so that these serve as, interpretation by archaeologists, as foot drums that you would then stomp on the wood planking in the enclosed space. It would make a very thunderous sound. So we interpret those as foot drums. Of course, there's a variety of tools that are made of stone. There's manos, matates, projectile points, of course.
Turns out we're really not so much different from our early ancestors. We still depend on rock, more so than ever. With the new technological innovations, we can cut larger and larger pieces of rock, making them more readily available, and therefore more affordable. Jim, where are we?
We are on the western edge of the Rio Grande Rift, just about 20 miles west of Berlin, New Mexico, which is in turn about 30 miles south of Albuquerque.
And this is a quarry where you're taking travertine.
Along the Rio Grande Rift, the western edge of the rift, there's a lot of volcanic activity which led to warm springs eroding the bedrock and depositing the travertine deposits. This is one of 4 quarries that we have.
Travertine dimension stone can be seen all over the U.S. and is especially popular in New Mexico. Desirable for a range of architectural applications because of its wide palette of colors and textures.
The holes that are drilled here are actually what we call a perforator. The perforator is what we drill our holes in order to run the wire through the hole.
Oh, okay, right.
Now, because we're drilling such long distances, and it's kind of a blind drill, right? Because you're setting up the vertical hole. We drill that vertical hole first, try to get it perfectly plumb, and then off the end of the wall, we're setting up a horizontal drill.
You're trying to drill that hole into the
Right.
other hole so that you can make the connection.
Yeah.
So these are diamond encrusted. I almost said zircon encrusted tweezers. These are diamond encrusted.
They're just, all they are is little, we call them pearls.
Yeah,
So
okay.
that it's
Pearls on a
like a
string.
sleeve of steel, and then the diamonds are electroplated to the outside of them.
Okay.
And that's what does all the
And
cutting.
there's a water channel inside of this?
Not in this. There's
carries the water with it.
Oh, just along the surface.
$10 a piece.
Yep. Yeah.
Lasts a very long.
Yep. We hope so.
we brought the belt saw in. Belt saw is basically a large chainsaw with a diamond belt on it. And we made this cut along this back wall here. And then from there, we come in with the drill. That's what
that channel
is.
Right.
And we drilled that into the belt saw cut, and then we wrap a wire around it.
Okay, so there's belt saw cut here and a wire cut here.
Right. So the two work in tandem. Basically, the wire's probably, in this particular material, is probably 4 or 5 times faster. Cutting and setting up and doing all this stuff uses a lot less water. So the wire is a more efficient way of cutting, but the belt saw, you need that in order to open up these back walls in order to get, you got to move backwards, and you can't do it with a wire saw.
Dimension stone is one of the most sustainable of the industrial minerals, since it is created by separating it from natural bedrock. There are no toxic materials used in its processing, and there are no direct greenhouse gas emissions during processing. A quarry will produce dust, noise, and some water pollution, but these can be remedied without too much trouble. The landscape may also have to be restored. Now I'm going to take you to a place in the mountains where hot waters from an ancient volcano are producing travertine today. We're in the Jemez Mountains alongside the Jemez River. Behind me is the Soda Dam, which is a natural geologic formation. The Soda Dam is composed of travertine. Travertine is the same stuff we saw at the Belen Quarry. It's formed by the precipitation of calcium carbonate from spring water. In this case, the spring water is actually hot water related to the Valles caldera. We're looking at a small cave in the Soda Dam. If you look in the cave walls, you can see the layers in the travertine. Those layers reflect the deposition of the calcium carbonate that came out of the water that was pouring over this formation. Over the years, it builds up into a great thickness. Stalagmites and stalactites in big caves, it's the same material, and it forms in the same way. But if you go to Carlsbad Caverns and look at all those pretty formations, it's made of the same material. People think that rocks are formed a long time ago, and that's that. But that's not the case. Rocks are being constantly formed. They've been formed in fits and starts over geologic time since the beginning of the planet. What we see here is an example of rocks being formed right now. We live in a 21st century Stone Age. In this episode, we examine the many uses of dimension stone for residential and commercial building. We watched a custom dimension stone installation. We saw the newest rock cutting technologies and discovered where travertine is quarried. We learned about early Native American alterations of rocks, making them the first to use dimension stone in the United States. We witnessed geological processes in action and travertine being created in real time. And we looked at modern buildings clad in stone slabs. We talked about environmentally friendly natural materials as well as environmental impacts. And finally, we reasserted the importance of the rocks of Earth. The dimension stone industry requires a diverse group of people to accomplish its mission. From large equipment operators to administration and accounting, cutters, polishers, salespeople, laser templators, installation crews, don't forget geologists, and many, many more. And finally, we're at the grave of Billy the Kid in Fort Sumner, New Mexico, perhaps the most famous of all New Mexicans. The tombstone of Billy the Kid is so meaningful and so highly valued that it has been stolen and recovered 3 times. Now it's encased in a steel cage to prevent further theft. It should last for hundreds of years. Now, I don't think I'll have the same fame as Billy the Kid. And I hope it doesn't happen anytime soon, right? But one day I may have my own tombstone, and that's a dimension stone. This is the 21st Century Stone Age. I'm Steve Maynard. Thanks for watching.